So this video is a continuation from the previous video. Okay, so we were talking about mastering the art of overestimation. And that is just because humans in general underestimate how long it's going to take us to do something. In the beginning, whatever you estimate, double it at least. It's just until you start to understand how long it's going to take to do something, and that requires doing it multiple times, you're always going to underestimate how much time it's going to take you to do something. So start mastering the art of overestimation, and definitely start working on your assignments sooner. The sooner that you get them into your unconscious brain, the sooner it can start thinking about things for you. So it says, train yourself to overestimate the amount of time needed for each project. Never eyeball the amount of time you think you'll need. And this just goes back to the fact that most people just get it wrong and underestimate. I do it all the time. I come up with this long list of things that I'm going to get done this weekend, and I get 3 of them done, and then I feel bad about myself because that's what humans do, right? We give ourselves this list of things we're going to accomplish. We don't do it, and then we feel bad, and that actually drives procrastination. And we could talk a little bit more about how to stop procrastination, because procrastination actually initially feels good for me to go, okay, I'm going to think about this tomorrow. But we keep kicking the can down the road until we're out of tomorrows, and now we created a crisis. So there are ways to deal with that, and I will share that with you all as well to help you if you are procrastinators. One of the main things is just to get started as soon as you're given something. Just go ahead and get started on it. Even if you're going to invest a small amount of time, say 10 minutes thinking about it, processing it, you still have done something. And then you can check off that box and you can say, okay, I feel good about this. I did something. It makes it easier to move on to the next thing. If you're a procrastinator, break things into chunks. Come up with a list of all the things that you have to do instead of one line item that says, complete my project. Break this down. What am I going to do today? What are the things I'm going to do today to take that step forward? I'm going to read my assignment and I'm going to sketch for 30 minutes. And that's what I'm going to do. And quite often when you've done that and you check it off and you feel good, you end up doing more. And so then you don't procrastinate and it breaks that cycle. When you do procrastinate and you keep pushing it off, then you're going to get to where you have to do something. You don't have enough time to do it well. Then you're stressed about it and you're guaranteed to fail. So start sooner, break it into smaller pieces so you have more check marks, and overestimate the amount of time it's going to take you to do that. Then if you finish your project before the deadline, you'll just have time to improve what you've done. And I can tell you guys, in 2 decades of education, the students, the students who earned A's on their work, started soon, invested a lot of time in doing them because they enjoyed what they were doing, finished early, and then went in and made tweaks to fix what they may have missed the first time around. That is one of the keys to getting better grades. Also, once you get out in industry, overestimation is going to save you time, allow you to focus on the details, and be more efficient in your responsibilities, and make it more interesting. Okay, so this is graphic design, and this was done in Illustrator and Photoshop. However, and you guys will learn that later on. So it's a self-portrait that the student was tasked with completing. How many hours do you think she spent working on it? Just rough estimate off the top of your head. How much time do you think she spent? How long do you think it would take you to create this? It took her 2 weeks, an average of 4 hours a day on 8 different days. So she invested 32 hours in this project from start to finish. And it doesn't include the time that she used learning the software or anything else. It was just the time that she worked on this piece itself. And most people are surprised to find out she spent that much time working on it. Let's look at another one. Okay, this was an 8-week long project. She spent 400 hours completing it. Now, she then went on to win a silver medal in technical drawing at the Skills USA State Championship, because the time she spent, those 400 hours that she spent, I gave her this Lego set, and she used calipers to measure the parts and pieces, modeled them all, and then she created this drawing and a series of drawings. Okay? 400 hours. She invested in herself. And she invested it so that she then became a medal winner at the state championship. And that's technical drawing is a very competitive field. There are a lot of students in that competition. So, it pays off. This project took 12 weeks to complete. She spent 1,200 hours to complete it. She won silver in the architectural drafting at Skills USA State Championship. Okay? 26 hours to complete this project. He photographed it. He brought it into Photoshop. He played with it, worked around with it. And this is the kind of time that we're talking about investing in your work. This one, 52 hours to design and model the frog. This is 3D animation class. I don't have any residential building design drawings as a part of this slideshow, because at the time there isn't any existing student work to show you. But this is some work from other students that have been in my classes in other areas, just to show you it takes a whole lot longer than we think it does. And one of the reasons is we spend a lot of time thinking that we don't calculate for. We have problems that come up that we have to resolve, and we don't know what those are going to be. So those unknowns often eat up a lot of our time. When I was in industry, we would call that a contingency, and we would allocate by then, right? So we're all people now that are professionals. We would allocate 10% of budget or time overage on our estimates. Even though they were very educated guesses and estimates, we still knew that we had underestimated and would add an additional 10% to our fees or time estimates in order to make sure that we allocated for those unknowns that we couldn't possibly allocate for. And so industry professionals do that, knowing how long it takes to do a lot of things, but still knowing that stuff will come up. And so that is something to consider. Stuff is going to happen. Things are going to come up. And so one of the ways that we compensate for that is by allowing a contingency. As a student, I would say double it. Do 100%, not 10%. Say, I think it's going to take me 10 hours to do this. Let's say we're going to plan for 20. And if there's anything left over, it's just time to go back and make it prettier or fix those issues. Or it's going to be eaten up by issues you have. Okay. And so I want to talk about some techniques of successful design students. I left industry in 2005 and have been teaching since then. And so during that time, I have learned to recognize in this field, because this is all I've ever done. I was a design student. I was a designer. I was a senior architectural designer when I left industry. And now I'm teaching I've mostly been a college instructor at a technical college. So this is what I have seen that my most successful students have applied to their education. And just so you know that a lot of students have gone to Skills USA competitions and have medaled. The last few years, we've gotten gold in our field and gone to nationals and done well in nationals. So this is what these students have done to become successful. And I just now want to share that with you all. Okay, so there is no easy path to success, and it's really important to know that. The human brain always looks for the path of least resistance, because we don't want to expend a lot of energy if we don't have to. And I'll just tell you, it helps to learn early on. There's no easy answer. However, there's a trail that those who came before us have blazed that we can follow as students, and I still consider myself a student in other areas. And then once we have graduated from the tasks that we're learning, or eventually your degree, you'll then leave that path and start to blaze your own trail. And that's where you get to start breaking the principles and elements of design. So one of the things that you can do is start reaching out to potential partners, friends, and fellow designers who can assist you. And we call this networking, right? You want to establish your network. The best jobs are not advertised. When I was in industry, I would have people call me and say, hey, our firm's looking to hire someone. Are you interested? They never advertise that position. And the bigger your network, the more calls you'll get. So I highly encourage you all to be very, very polite, courteous, friendly with everyone you meet, and start building your network now. And there's a lot of stuff you can do, and we'll talk more about that when you get to the portfolio course. We're going to talk more about the professional techniques, but go ahead and start establishing connections now with your classmates. You see I have a link here to AIBD, American Institute of Building Design. Get involved in our student chapter, get involved in the national chapter, start reaching out, start connecting to people. I know sometimes that sounds daunting, but I can tell you that all of the best jobs that I ever had were through networking. They weren't some ad I answered on Indeed. Okay. The first people you're going to ask for references from are your instructors. And we are not required to recommend you. It is our reputations on whether or not we recommend someone. And most of us are selective about who we write references for or who we'll give references for, because it reflects us. So if I recommend someone and they don't do well, and this hasn't happened to me that I'm aware of. I do know that a former instructor who was a residential building designer recommended a student to a friend of his, and then that student didn't show up. And he was mortified because it showed a lack of judgment on his part to think that this was somebody who was reputable. Okay? So if you're not giving your assignments 100% or meeting your deadlines, how can your faculty trust that you are dedicated and will meet deadlines in the workforce? So one of the things you're establishing with faculty who are your first connections to industry, is that you're building your reputation as a designer, and building that network starts in the classroom. Okay, I'm going to stop this video here and I'll continue in the next.